Voting is a civic duty. Let's register on the electoral list. This is a message from Equinoxe television.
Hi there to all of you faithful viewers of Equinoxe television. Welcome back from the weekend. It's time for the news. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Our major stories this evening: less than 3 weeks to back to school. Road accidents continue on major highways across the country. At least one person has died and several others have incurred severe injuries following a collision between a transport bus and a heavy-duty truck. Details of that accident, which happened today on the Yaoundé highway, in this news edition. Plus, as the rainy season intensifies across Africa and Cameroon, mudslides continue to take away lives as well. 18 people lost their lives in Uganda following a mudslide caused by heavy rains. Those are our major stories. Details in just a moment. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for the confidence. We begin with this human interest story, a road accident which happened today on the Yaoundé highway, cost the life of at least one person. Several other passengers of the transport bus incurred severe injuries and they were rushed to nearby hospitals for medical attention. According to security forces we met at the scene of the incident, the accident was caused by overspeeding. It was also after a collision between a transport bus and a heavy-duty truck which was transporting timber, as you can see on your screens, and the wounded were rushed to the hospital. And this accident caused traffic congestion for several hours. That was around Boumniebel on the Yaoundé highway, and it is coming about 3 weeks after school resumption, when so many people would have to be traveling from where they are at the moment, especially school children, to their various destinations or areas of origin for back to school. That would be on the 9th of September. We will be coming with details of that accident today. That would be at 8 p.m. Now, 8 stolen cars have been recovered by the elements of the Territorial Gendarmerie Regiment in the Mezam in Bamenda in the Northwest region. The operation that was led by Lieutenant Colonel Alobode Mwabe Peter saw the arrest of 6 suspects. Meanwhile, a man suspected of stealing a vehicle in Bafsam was picked up during a road control campaign in Banga in the Mongo division. Small Jikan Gabriel with details of those stories.
At the Esplanade of the Territorial Gendarmerie Regiment in Mezam, Bamenda, are 8 vehicles retrieved during an operation done by gendarmes.
That special operation permitted us to dismantle this gang you see, which is stealing vehicles in Bamenda and taking it mostly to a wing where they recondition the vehicles and they sell either in a wing or they sell out of a wing. So some suspects were caught in a wing, others were caught in Buda.
But why is Awing the center of stolen vehicles?
Awing seems to be like a backup zone. What we've understood is they're using it like a backup zone where they have their mechanics and where they have some bushes, because the vehicles were recovered in the bushes, and some bushes are around Awing.
Apart from the vehicles displayed, the security forces also presented 6 suspects. Some car owners who were informed about the stolen vehicles came around to see if theirs was among.
A number of victims have already come up and they have indicated that the vehicles belong to them, and at the end of the day, all these vehicles, 8 in number, will be presented alongside the suspects to the State Council.
In the Mungo division, precisely at Mbanga, it was a man in his late 30s who was arrested by gendarmes for driving a car without documents. The man said it was a setup. I'm just a victim in all this because I was promised to be paid 30,000 francs for me to drive the car to Douala. Only for us to arrive at the control, all of them ran away, abandoning me. Immediately after the arrest, the owner of the car based in Bafoussam was informed.
When I went to work at Malantran, I came back, parked the car at around 7 o'clock in the morning. When I was going to work at 6 o'clock, I went out, I didn't see my car.
The car was seen during a control by the Divisional Delegation of Transport for Mungo, which was geared at controlling car documents.
Still on insecurity, now we take you to the far north region, precisely in Mokolo, where 2 suspected bandits have been arrested. They had in their possession 100,000 francs of fake banknotes. The circulation of counterfeit banknotes has gained grounds in the far north region of the country and even other parts of Cameroon, with several persons victims, most of them businessmen and women. Lucy Liengu Asia now takes us to Mokolo.
Counterfeit banknotes have been circulating in some parts of Cameroon for some time now. In Mokolo, in the Mayotanaga division, the phenomenon is common, with the circulation of 10,000 and 2,000 francs fake banknotes. A food vendor, Nasuru, explains she has been scammed. Some clients visited her store to eat, and the money paid was a fake banknote of 2,000 francs. Zachary, the president of the Mokolo market, says he has also been a victim. He calls on traders to be vigilant. The commissioner of the Mokolo Judicial Police says investigations have been launched and 2 individuals in possession of nearly 100,000 francs counterfeit banknotes have been apprehended.
Tout coupure de bien de 10 000 francs doit être examiné avant d'être encaissé.
The phenomenon, according to the population of Mokolo, is threatening to paralyze economic activities in the region plagued by insecurity. Officers of the Mokolo Judicial Police say the authors of these unlawful acts are still on the run. They call on the population to be vigilant and report any case of fake banknotes in circulation.
From the far north, we come down to the north in Garua, where the population recently have been experiencing extreme drought. The farmers are the most affected. In their frustration, the Muslim faithful in the north region, precisely in Garua, turn to Allah for prayers to beg him to send down rain. Mala Glory with details.
They raised their hands in prayers to Allah. These Muslim faithful in the town of Garwa, North region, for 3 days have been fasting and praying for rain to fall.
We have
finally realized the difficulties we are facing, and we also know that all prayers to God is always answered. So now it's left for him to decide when to answer this one. For over 3 weeks, this part of the country has been experiencing extreme drought, with farmers the most affected, as crops are gradually drying up. And according to the Lamid of Garwa, this could be a punishment from Allah. He thus called on Muslim faithful to change from their evil ways. The message God is sending to us during this period is very clear. We need to change from our ways. It's time for everyone to ask themselves questions about their lives. They need to live in harmony with one another. Few days after their prayers, the town of Garwa was rescued by a shower of rain this weekend, a big relief to farmers and the entire population. However, the people plead on the authorities to intervene with sustainable measures, as the drought that has lasted for over 3 weeks is still persisting.
That is happening at a time it has been raining cats and dogs all day in Douala today. Owners of media organs have been urged to give women fair treatment just like their male counterparts. The call is being made at a time several women in the media say they are often discriminated upon, as some of them are paid less, with others excluded from leadership positions. Immaculate Fogwe was part of a seminar organized by the United Nations organization where these plights faced by women in the media were raised.
Female journalists have played a significant role in shaping the media landscape, from reporting in war-torn areas like the Northwest, Southwest and Far North regions of Cameroon, advocating for gender equality and social justice. However, despite the remarkable efforts made by these women, a lot of them are being discriminated upon. In most cases, they are often paid less than their male colleagues. Another challenge faced by women is the underrepresentation of women in decision-making roles, as most of them are often excluded from leadership positions, making it difficult for them to have their voices heard. Aware of all these challenges, a roundtable discussion with media men and women was organized by the United Nations organization.
So these kinds of fora are an opportunity for the organizers at UNESCO and the human rights in Central Africa to conscientize and raise the awareness of media women to take up their rights and to own their rights, to appropriate their rights, to know the legal instruments and to be able to promote their own rights and the rights of other women in their respective countries.
Donc cet atelier vise à évaluer.
This workshop wants to evaluate some of the challenges faced by women in the media and also sensitize media owners and journalists to be conscious about the role women play. Women need to believe in themselves and work hard to achieve their dreams.
Nous sommes là pour aider les médias eux-mêmes à prendre responsabilité.
Ensuring that women have equal opportunities to succeed and thrive as journalists is very important. The ongoing workshop has as theme Men and Women in the Media, Equality and Responsibility, a press that promotes peace and democracy in Africa.
Now we take you out of Cameroon. At least 21 people are reported dead following a landslide which happened in Uganda's capital Kampala that was over the weekend. And over to Sudan, severe floods have forced people displaced by the Sudanese civil war to relocate once again. Let's now have a roundup of the stories with Cedric Chakutu.
A vast landfill site in the Ugandan capital has collapsed, killing at least 21 people. 14 other people were injured when the Ketezi landfill, which serves as a waste disposal site for much of Kampala, collapsed late Friday. According to Kampala Capital City Authority, at least 2 of the dead were children.
We have retrieved 21 dead bodies, and these dead bodies includes children, women, and men. They have all been taken to City Mortuary for post-mortem, and thereafter we are going to hand over the dead bodies to the families for a decent burial.
The collapse is believed to have been triggered by heavy rainfall. The precise details of what happened was unclear, but the city authorities said there was a structural failure in waste mass. Elsewhere, severe flooding has forced people displaced by Sudan's civil war to relocate once again, adding further suffering to the plight of families already exhausted by conflict in Sudan. Families who had been living in a school complex in the eastern province of Kassala awoke to find floodwaters had crept up while they slept.
The school was flooded while we were asleep. We woke up and found it was submerged. Vehicles had sunk and we lost all our belongings.
The United Nations provided emergency tents and relocated the families, describing the needs, including access to water, hygiene and sanitation, as huge.
We are currently in the process of distributing the non-food item which will help forcibly displaced community that have been affected by flood to face the current situation. You can understand that this is a crisis over a crisis.
More than 11,000 people, including refugees and local communities in eastern Kassala State, have been impacted by the floods and heavy rains in the past 2 weeks, according to United Nations. And the Minister of Justice of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Constant Mutamba, announced on Saturday, August 10, 2024, the release of nearly 527 prisoners from the central prison of Makala in Kinshasa. During his speech, he also delivered 2,000 mattresses to the inmates out of a total of 7,000 ordered, aiming to improve their detention conditions. He reminded the public that he had promised to improve the detention conditions of prisoners in line with instructions from the head of state. The minister also announced the construction of a new prison in Maluku on a site he had recently visited.
Now let's talk sports. Kenya is Africa's best nation at the Olympic Games that ended in Paris, France. That was over the weekend precisely on Sunday with a total of 11 medals, 4 gold. As Africa's representative returned home, some records would remain in the books of the Olympic Committee. Smart Jikan Gabriel has details.
The curtains have officially been closed as the Paris Olympic Games came to an end over the weekend. The Games will be one to remember for some athletes and African nations. Kenya's 20-year-old Emmanuel Wanyuyi won an Olympic gold medal in the men's 800 meters race at Paris 2024. He is the youngest runner to ever win the race. It was his first participation at an Olympic Games. After the gold medal of Lesile Tebogo, which was the first time an African nation was winning a gold medal in the 200 meters men's race, a public holiday was given to workers in Botswana to celebrate the award. Botswana's quartet of Lesile Tebogo, Bayapo Ndori, Busan Kolen, and Anthony Pesala set a new African record of 2 minutes 54.53 seconds as they won an Olympic silver medal in the men's 4x400 meters relay. Nigerian coach Reina Wakama was named as the best coach in women's basketball at the 2024 Olympics. She coached the Tigers to become the first African team to qualify for the quarterfinals in basketball at the Olympics. After beating Canada and Australia, she is one of the youngest coaches in Olympics history. At the age of 32, Kenya ended as Africa's best nation in the City of Light with a total of 11 medals, 4 in gold, while USA was the overall best nation at the Olympic Games with 126 medals, 40 of them in gold. The next Olympic Games will be held in the City of Angels, Los Angeles, in 4 years' time.
And that does it for the first part. The news talking point comes up next. You don't go anywhere. Welcome back, viewers. Tonight we will be discussing the strike action in Nigeria. For several weeks now, Nigerians have taken to the street protesting against poor living conditions, and so many measures have been taken, but the Nigerians seem yet unsatisfied. Our guest tonight is George Tandu. He is an international relations expert and analyst, and he will be talking to us from the United States of America. George, thank you so much for accepting to be our guest on Talking Points tonight. I just mentioned President Bola Tinubu has taken some steps to appease Nigerians. That is, somehow he has even increased minimum wages and even slashed his own salary, among others. Why do Nigerians still seem unsatisfied? Could there be possibilities of manipulation from hierarchy or from other parties?
Yes, of course. President Tinubu came out last Sunday to address the nation, and in his nation's address took time to tell Nigerians the achievements of his government for the past 1 year. And coming to, trying to redress or address some of these issues, or in trying to calm down Nigerians, he came out with certain decisions which Nigerians have not accepted up to this moment. That is why they are still on the streets. And I remember the increase of minimum wage from 35,000 naira to 70,000 naira. Nigerians are complaining that this only favors the civil servants, and it's not even commensurate to the high cost of living or what they would use this 70,000 naira in buying. There was also this one where President Tinubu promised that 500 billion naira would be sent to each state in Nigeria so that these states can use in empowering the youth through certain programs. And Nigerians, the protesters, reacted by saying that this is just opening another leeway for mismanagement and embezzlement, because the governors or the states are going to embezzle this money. So, you know, that's the kind of impasse that Nigeria is facing right now, because there's already lack of trust in Tinubu's regime, and they are calling President Tinubu to step down, you know. So there is lack of confidence. These are the steps that he has taken that I can, you know, tell you here. Others Nigerians say they are meaningless, because those areas, they can only be spoken on the paper, but to execute it, which is going to affect or bring down the prices of this community, because that is what they want, that life should be normal. Life should not be this expensive again. They should go back to their former lives, where commodities were cheap, they were affordable, at least people could afford 3 square meals, but today is different.
Now, like Nigeria, George, most African countries are naturally rich, but wallow in abject poverty, so to speak. What way forward for countries in Africa in this 21st century?
Yes, it's true you say, and like Nigeria, other African countries are naturally very rich, but their citizens are wallowing in abject poverty. Very true. Africa as a whole is a blessed continent with all manner of natural resources, endowed with natural resources. But the problem is the management of these resources. The states or the presidents or the leaders of this country have allowed these resources to either be looted away by foreign agencies or mismanaged by those that are in charge. They don't know where they're keeping this money. The citizens are not feeling, you know, they're not having a feel of what they naturally have or what God has given them. That is the situation that Africa is facing. You know, someone once said that the problem of Africa is leadership. Yes, the problem of Africa is leadership. When we have good leaders, every other thing would follow. But when we have bad leaders, we should be expecting a few very rich people at the top there, and the majority of the people will be wallowing in abject poverty. So that is what is happening across Africa. I think for now, there is no exception, except little countries that are trying to emerge by doing their own things. I don't want to name them here right now. And before you know it, these leaders will be overthrown using, I don't know, using the military, and people would say this military are being engineered by foreign forces or by foreign governments that are beneficiaries of natural resources of this country. So that is the situation that Africa is going through right now. You are very correct.
Now, George, maybe we might want to take it further or let people watching us understand better what Nigerians are actually asking for precisely, because as I mentioned above, President Tinubu has tried. He has increased minimum wages and he slashed his own salary and also fuel subsidies. Tell us more what the demands of Nigerians are precisely. What should the government do to satisfy Nigerians or take them off the streets?
And here are some of the demands by the protesters. Bring back, they are calling on President Tinubu to bring back the oil subsidy, to put a stop to the purchase of the presidential jet, which they say was going to cost a lot of money, put a stop to the purchase of presidential yacht, put a stop to the construction of a 15 billion house for the vice president, and also to slash the budget and salaries of the senators. These people earn so much money and they have a very huge budget, which is not necessary when Nigerians are suffering. And also to stop the purchase of cars for the senators. Each car, according to what I got, is more than 100 million naira for all the senators and House reps, that they should put a stop to that. Then they demanded that the minimum wage be increased to 250,000 naira, and that there should be the release of NSAS protesters that were detained, that were detained, and also that the Nigerian government should prop the past and present leaders, present leaders who looted the state coffers, state treasury, and this money should be used to, create jobs or, used to develop the educational and agricultural sectors. So these are some of the demands that they are asking the government to do right away. If not, maybe the strike or the protest is going to continue.
And now coming back to our own context again, we see Nigerians protesting because of high cost of living or low standards of living, and it's like they're normal. It's citizens' rights to manifest his or her dissatisfaction publicly. In Cameroon, the situation is almost the same. I don't want to say worse, but we observe the contrary. We seem to be suffering and smiling. George, is it fear of repression or Cameroonians merit their leaders?
Yes, actually, Anne, putting the situation in Nigeria into context, I would begin by saying that Nigeria is a country where citizens do enjoy some of their constitutional rights. I'm talking about protesting when things go wrong, because they have leaders there that do organize this protest, and they come out clearly, they organize this protest, they give a timeline, and they send their demands to the government. So that is what has been happening in Nigeria, and some of these protests do go successfully without any disruption, though at the end of the day you always register some miscreants. So that is it in Nigeria. But in the Cameroonian context, I think is completely different, because I've never seen where people organize, government allow people to organize a strike or organize something like a protest in Cameroon. They would always stifle the rights of the citizens. Remember the 2014 law on terrorism. This has been seen by analysts as a government's move to completely shut down civilians or Cameroonians from exercising their constitutional rights. Because once you start doing this, they'll be giving you some kind of names like terrorists, like unpatriotic people, and whatsoever. So these are, in fact, in Cameroon, it's difficult to organize a protest successfully. Even when you heavily go to the street, you mean repression from the forces of law and order. And of course, it would be a miracle that people will go to streets in Cameroon and come back without deaths being recorded or people injured or arrested. That is the situation. But we all know that things are not better in Cameroon. Prices of fuel too went up, and this affected any other thing in Cameroon as well.
Sometimes people protest in Cameroon, but like they say, it should always be pacific. Thank you so much, George Tandu, for accepting to be our guest tonight on the news on Equinoxe Television. You were talking to us from the US of A. Thank you again, and hope to have you some other time. Viewers, thank you so much for always watching. Don't go away. Our programs continue. Equinoxe War comes up live from Yaoundé at 7 p.m. and the news in the French language comes up at 8 p.m. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television. See you again tomorrow. God willing, bye-bye for now.